Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the AfterShock Happy Hour and Live Sale. I'm your host and the communications. What is my title now? Yes, I am the communications specialist. Not doing well today so far here at AfterShock. Welcome, welcome. We are so excited. It feels like forever since we've been back with you guys. Great to see everyone in chat. Paul Dunn, everybody, Lady Grayson, Nathan Duncan, Joanne Fritz. So good to see you. We are back for our first happy hour of 2022. And first up, I'm very excited to introduce you to our New York City ambassador, Grant DeArmond. Hello, Grant. How are you?
Hi, I am doing quite well. How are you?
I am good. Cheers to you. Thank you so much for joining us today, and everybody out there, cheers. You guys got hit so incredibly with a storm last week, and now I'm here in Oklahoma with my parents and getting snowed in as we speak. So how's everything been going? How are all your shops doing?
The shops are doing great. Yeah. So I go to 4 different shops in the city: Forbidden Planet, JHU Comic Books, Anyone Comics, and St. Mark's. And all of them had a phenomenal Christmas. Coming back, I know they kept a lot of the customers that they brought in right at the end of the year there. And it's very cool to see them, I mean, like they're obviously still being safe and smart about everything, making sure not too many people are in the store, everybody's masked up and everything. But it does really feel like, they're really kind of coming back.
Yeah, and a little bit more about you. How did you first become a fan of Aftershock? What kind of drew you into us?
It was the cover to the book Stronghold by Phil Hester, Ryan Kelly, Dee Cunniffe, and Simon Boland. And it's so cool. It's undersea. And there's this guy, he just looks like a normal business guy walking on the bottom of the ocean. And he's like kind of in silhouette. And I don't know, it really, really grabbed my attention. I saw it at Anyone Comics, my local comic store. And then after I bought that book, I checked out, Aftershock's website and everything, and found Dark Arc by Cullen Bunn, Juan Doe, and Ryan Hill. And I was just hooked. Like that book was like, there were a couple issues out, I think, at that point. So I was able to like read. I think the first trade was actually out at that point.
Yeah, I think so too. Because yeah, a Stronghold, excellent choice. It's still one of my favorite unknown like sci-fi. It's so well done. So that's excellent choice. And of course, Dark Arc is one of our biggest titles ever as well. So well done. And so for you, like what have you been following for this month? Like what are your top picks that you absolutely love and I want to suggest to everybody watching today?
I mean, this is not going to surprise anybody. I too am a sucker for Maniac of New York. Bronx is Burning by Elliot Kalin, Andrea Moody, and Taylor Esposito. Come on. I mean, how do you not love that book? It's Jason Takes Manhattan, but in such a cool, very like prescient way. And then I just got done checking out a copy of Land of the Living Gods by Isaac Mahogany, Santos, and Dave Sharp. And that book is wild. It is so like, I don't know, it feels really, really high concept, but at the same time, almost kind of like Call of the Wild a little bit, because it's very much like a young person and their sidekick kind of going on this saga, this adventure. And it's really cool. There's ghosts and cyborgs and an apocalyptic wasteland, and it all makes a ton of sense. Like so many cool concepts wrapped up in like this one really, really neat package.
Yeah, absolutely. We've been talking about this like behind the scenes, how excited we are for this book. And like me and Mark Hammond have been pretty much telling people like this is probably going to be our next We Live. And that's going to be in shops this coming Wednesday, correct?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, so really exciting stuff. Well, Grant, thank you so much for joining. How can people follow you on the social media if they want to keep up with all your goings-ons?
Yeah, I post really bad jokes on Twitter. It's just my name at Grant D'Armett, Grant D as in dog, EARM as in Michael, ITT.
Perfection. Well, thank you again for joining, and thank you so much for being a part of the ambassador program. It's just been such a pleasure working with you it's been almost 2 years now, right? Or a little over?
2 years, yeah. Funny story, I actually, it was March of 2020 and I got my training done and I was like, all right, time to go out and start this chapter.
Whoa. Yeah, I'll never forget that because we just came back from Comics Pro when we had just like announced, that we're ready to hit the ground running with the ambassador program. It's just hold on one second, like just a couple months and we'll be back. So thank you for sticking through all of it with us. It's been an absolute pleasure working with you. And we're about to have the incredible Tim Seeley on to talk about his career and work with us. So everybody stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the AfterShock Happy Hour. I am so excited to have our guest on today. He has done so much incredible work with us, including Brilliant Trash, Dark Red, and The Bequest. We have the incredible artist and writer, Tim Seeley, here with us. Hello, Tim. How are you?
Hey, good to see you again.
Good to see you too. It feels like forever, even though it was just like at the beginning of December, I saw you at C2E2. How have you been?
Yeah, not bad. That was the first comic convention I'd been to in a long time, and it seems like maybe the last for a while. I don't know. I got to one, so that was a thing. But yeah, so just been working on stuff, and we talked about this a little bit. Enduring the not so impressive snow blizzard we were supposed to get here in Chicago. That's decent, but not apocalyptic.
Yeah, it seems like it's worse out here in Oklahoma for some reason. But cheers to you, and cheers to the latest of the one-shots for Dark Red that just came out this week. Congratulations.
Yeah, I haven't seen any yet because of how messed up the mail is in the world, and so I understand it's out in the world. I hope you guys have seen it. I have not seen it, but I know that Corin drew her butt off for it, so I'm pretty excited.
Yeah, it is excellent. But what we always love to talk about right when we first get our guests on is a little bit more about you and how you got started in the comic book verse. So for you, what was that first comic book that you picked up and was like, ooh, I need to do this. I need to be a part of this somehow.
I just had to look over at it because it sits in my desk by my desk here. It's Amazing Spider-Man 230, which I was 5 or 6 years old. Was camping with my parents. It rained the whole time. There was a little camp store, and we walked over there. And I had seen Spider-Man on the Electric Company on public television, and I had I've told the story before, but when I had seen Spider-Man Electric Company. I liked Spider-Man, and then my mom for Christmas got me. She'd ordered me this Mego set, and it came with it was the Spider-Mobile. Actually, it's right there behind me as well. Came with the Spider-Mobile, and then it was supposed to come with Spider-Man, the Hulk, and Green Goblin, but they mispacked it. So it came with Spider-Man, Robin, and the Hulk. No, sorry, Spider-Man, Robin, and the Green Goblin. So I was confused as a kid, but I played with these toys. I have lost the Green Goblin and Robin since then, but I still have the Spider-Man and the Bat. And So I was super interested in this. It was writing, and my mom got me a comic, and I think within weeks of getting that comic, I asked my parents how they made these, and my dad said somebody draws that, and I said that's what I'm gonna do. So I haven't changed my plan in 40 years, maybe, unfortunately, but that was always the goal, and so I've been doing this professionally for almost a little bit more than 20 years at this point. So yeah, crazy.
An incredible job you've been doing this whole time too. So you are an incredible artist and an incredible writer. So was it artwork that drew you first, or was it the storytelling that drew you in first?
Well, so the way I kind of always describe it is when I was a kid, I didn't know what writing was, I guess. And so, but I could see the art. I knew that someone drew it. Someone had told me, like, my dad said, someone draws this. So I understood that part of it. And I think all through up until I was in my 20s, maybe my early 20s, I knew that people drew them, but I didn't really understand writing, honestly. And so, I would always make comics, but I didn't really understand what writing was. I didn't really have a good sense that, that there was a separate job for this kind of thing. I just knew that you just made comics. So, it wasn't until when I first started doing my own indie comics that I realized, like, oh, I kind of know how to write these as well. Now I'm basically just a writer. It's only very sort of occasionally that I draw anymore. But, I guess I always kind of, if I had my dithers, I would write and draw a comic, but that's what I would do. I just write and draw one comic, but it doesn't really work that way. It's really hard for that to line up. I've never managed to make that line up. Well, once or twice. I drew and wrote a Ant-Man series once, and I drew and wrote like a hack slash thing once or twice, but timing wise, it's almost impossible to make it work. So it's been very rare that I've pulled that off. So mostly I write now, and occasionally you guys have me draw a cover or something. But yeah, it's a weird job. You never sort of, if you can do both things, it's not actually that useful in comics because the schedule is such that it's easier if you have other people do things, so yeah.
Yeah, it's almost more like you have to have everybody working at the same time, like a factory, and doing all the different parts all at the same time versus, you'd have to finish all the writing before you could start any of the drawing. And that would, definitely slow you down a lot. And obviously, everybody in the chat, if you have any questions for Tim, please put them in the chat and I will make sure to ask him. But for my own interest, I'm wondering, so what was your first gig? How did you first step into the comic book world? Because it was at first as an artist and then you started writing, like you mentioned. So what were the steps to both for you?
Yeah, I mean, I had done little weird jobs. I did some stuff. I drew some stuff for some indie comics when I was in college. And I would self-publish stuff. I very poorly self-published a book when I was 19, I think, and sold it at the old Chicago Comic-Con. It cost me $3.50 to print each issue. I sold them for $1.99. So it was everything around it was dumb, but I just did it to do it. And then I met a lot of people, which helped me sort of get in with the indie creators at that time, and I kind of knew everybody who was doing that scene at the time. So I knew Art and Franco when I was 18 or 19. I knew all these kind of cartoonists that I would see then. A lot of the sort of, like, I met Phil Hester and Ethan Van Sciver and all these people when I was in my teens, and sort of was able to kind of meet a lot of creators who were doing the kind of thing I was. And Josh Blaylock was one of those people. And so when I was in college, just out of college, I worked at a children's book company. I worked for a publisher called Dead Dog Comics, doing comics on the side. It was kind of a horror comic company, kind of small, but full of ideas. But it was really when Josh got the rights to do G.I. Joe, and he basically, I had worked as an intern at Marvel Comics when I was in college. And Josh called me and basically said, G.I. Joe is going great, but I don't know how to handle the schedule. Can you come work for me? So I moved to Chicago from Minneapolis. I was an editor first, and then I started drawing stuff because we just needed things filled in the schedule. And then I became the artist of G.I. Joe because I knew what Hasbro wanted, and I could do it on time. And so then I became a full-time artist for 2.5 years on GI Joe, basically. So
That's
yeah, it's a weird,
amazing.
yeah, I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. Nothing ever makes sense in this job, but that's how I got to where this, whatever this is.
Yeah, it sounds like the people, if you're looking to get into the industry, make sure you go to industry events like conventions and meet
Yeah,
these people that you want to work with.
Yeah,
Do you have any other? Oh, go ahead.
I always say that, I think Mark Waid said it once, which was, and I quote this all the time, which is comics, working comics is like breaking out of prison. You can, there's all kinds of ways to do it, but whatever way you do will never be used again, right? So that's essentially, however I ended up doing this is, I don't know if it's a way anybody else can do it. I just kind of stumbled through things and, kind of ended up just sort of lining up with, I was lucky because I met the right kind of people. And the best way to do that, obviously, and if COVID be willing, we go back to conventions, you can hang out with people and go have a drink and bullshit about things you love. And that'll slowly roll into something mimicking a job.
Yeah, you would hope. Is there any advice? Because like you said, it's kind of a crapshoot now of how you get into the industry. Is there any advice that you have for writers or artists who are trying to get into the industry now?
Yeah, I mean, I teach a cartooning class for college kids, so I see kind of how things are done now, and the best way now is just put everything online. Like, there's no, I didn't have that venue when I was in my 20s. There was no such thing, as web comics or social media. But I don't think there's anything close to overexposure or any of that sort of thing. And certainly never, I hear people say this all the time, which is they're worried that someone will steal their idea, so they don't want to put anything out. To which I always say, there is no original idea. Don't worry about it. Everything is stolen. And just, you need to, it's your voice, not your idea that matters, right? It's the way you do things. Ideas are really kind of a dime a dozen. So, people want to see your personality, like who you are, is more important than any pitch, really. So, just put things out, get as many people to see it as possible, meet as many people as possible, use communities like things that exist on social media, establish a voice. And find your sort of path, find your prison break, your Mark Waid prison break.
Yeah, actually, I met Mark Waid about 5-6 years ago at a random Halloween party. And that's how I first met Mark Waid. I was in some ridiculous getup. I was like, "Oh, hello, sir. Pleasure to meet you."
Like a way to meet Mark, for sure. And and Mark has helped a lot of people out. I mean, I met him once as a kid. I showed him a comic, and he said, keep what you're doing, and maybe in about 4 or 5 years I think you'll be ready. And he was right. I think I was early by a year, maybe, or something. I was like 16, and I think I started when I was 19 or 20. So yeah, finding these people. We're around. Take my class if you're in Chicago. Take other people's classes wherever, or cartoonists. That's the way to meet people and show them your work. And we like comics, otherwise we wouldn't do this stupid stuff. So we'll, if you've got something interesting, we'll be happy to look at it.
Yeah, absolutely. We have some great questions coming in from the chat. Nathan, I'm going to save your question about Dark Red, because I'm going to wrap that into Dark Red in a little bit. But one of our ambassadors, actually, Seeley E-Man, wants to know, Tim, what are the pros? Let's not talk about the cons of doing work for an indie publisher versus the big two.
I mean, every publisher is different, so it's kind of hard to say. I think that the hardest thing is sort of, while you're working with an independent publisher, they're finding their voice. And so a lot of times, publishers kind of grow into what they do. You can look at early Image and early Dark Horse versus what those publishers are now. And so depending on where you fall in working for that company, you may not be the thing that they become known for. Even if your book is great, it's a lot of times about timing. Like, AfterShock is sort of still finding, like, oh, hey, we're pretty good at horror, right? Like, but did AfterShock know that when I did Brilliant Trash, a science fiction book? Like, no, right? So part of it is just sort of the timing. Obviously, Marvel and DC know what they do. They do superheroes. They don't really do anything else. I mean, when they tried it, it doesn't stick. So like the advantage often is just like the voice. Like, and I say this all the time, like now the voice is everything, right? So people just need to know what you do, and you have to keep doing that thing, and that can be, I think, the hardest part about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of brilliant trash, because I realized just the other day when we had our conversation about a year ago, we were talking about The Quest and Dark Red, I didn't get to talk to you about Brilliant Trash. And it's an incredible title. It's your first title with us. And it's just such an incredible idea where basically there's a secret organization that's created a superpower serum, but every time you use your powers, it actually absorbs years of your life. And there's all this other, espionage and politics involved with it. Where did this story come from for you? Please tell us a little bit more about it in your own words. I love this title so much.
Yeah, and I feel like that was a weird one where, and again, people think of me as a horror guy. So when I do a science fiction superhero thing, I think maybe people are like, what the hell? But it's actually comes kind of a conversation with my brother. A lot of things I've done do, because my brother and I have worked together since we were obviously little kids. So on making stuff up. But basically, we were kind of just talking about, politics of the time and this sort of idea, I guess, that like so often I feel like the way that people react to just about anything is so much based on their worldview. And so we kind of have this idea of what, if you gave people a lot of power, how many people would just use it immediately, or how many people and for themselves, and how many people would try to use it for, someone else, and all this kind of questions that we had. And then it was kind of inspired, the title with, there's a band that my brother and I were super into when we were high school called Machines of Loving Grace. And they had a song called Burn Like Brilliant Trash at Jackie's Funeral. And so, and the title, the lyrics are pretty interesting, but it kind of, part of the thing we thought about was that, like, it was kind of this almost Blade Runner-y, Roy Batty speech where like some people would sort of just burn away, like, they would just use it all in a moment, and they would burn away like brilliant trash. And some people would try to stretch this out and try to get something, either, it was this question of what good is power? What do you do with it? Do you use it quickly? Do you use it over time? Do you use it selfishly? That was kind of the concept that we came up with. So good song, that Burn Like Brilliant Trash at Jackie's Funeral. That's a personal favorite.
I know, now I have to go look that up. And like, it's such a great, just burning like brilliant trash. It's so visual, and so just like you get so much out of just that statement. Yeah. And the one question I have for you after rereading it is, so basically there's the big bad guy who's trying to control the serum to use for money, power, all that kind of stuff. And one of the things he does, since it uses up years of his life, he actually takes kids and injects them to use them for his own good, because obviously they last a little bit longer. By any chance, because I was getting very Akira vibes from those kids, like, how in Akira there's like the creepy kids. Was that it? Did you get inspiration from that at all, or am I just like fishing?
No, absolutely. I mean, it's very much, it was a superhero book, I guess, but it was really a cyberpunk book. And so for me, that era, I loved that kind of stuff. And so it was definitely like part Blade Runner, part Akira, that was in the DNA, absolutely, for sure.
I highly, highly suggest this book, guys. Like I said, this is the first title that Tim did with us. So Brilliant Trash is available. All 6 issues are in trade paperbacks at your local shop, and they can order it. I highly, highly suggest this. And we have a couple questions from chat. One is, Tim, if you could choose to have a drink with anyone on the roster of characters you've written for and or created, who would it be and why? And also, he's a big fan of your work. Keep it up.
Okay. I mean, I guess I'd have to go with Dick Grayson, just because.
That's fair. That's fair.
Because I feel you had a drink with Dick Grayson, you would walk away for feeling good, and that, because that character and the way that at least I interpret him was, he's seen some shit and he's been through some things, and he can still sort of be this everyman in a way that Batman can't, in a way that a lot of other characters who are sort of, these, they become vengeance. And I don't think having a drink with Batman would be fun. I don't think. But I feel like
he would be the worst, like driest. Like he wouldn't want to get drunk at all. He'd be so serious the whole time. No,
he'd be distracted, and and whatever. And yeah, and I just feel like and Dick is not the kind of character I make up naturally. I tend to make up these sort of broken people. So and so having spent a lot of time with him, I kind of feel like I would get something out of him I wouldn't get out of the characters that I made up, who are all mostly pretty damaged. Maybe Vlad from Hack Slash, he's a pretty nice, he's pretty decent guy, but yeah, everybody else is kind of a monster.
Yeah, and Lady Grayson says, I think I'd have to choose the same. So it looks like you're not alone in it.
No.
And then C-List E-Man wants to know, Tim, since you worked on G.I. Joe versus Transformers, who would really win in a fight, Snake Eyes or Rumble?
I mean, you always got to go on the side of the giant metal robot. A thing that you always do in comics, like you always have the guy with the sword cut the robot's arm off or cut the gun in half. But that would never, you can't do that. That's not possible. So the sword is useless. The Uzi is useless. And the robot always wins. There's the reality of it. We give them cheats for the G.I. Joes so that they don't get smucked, but the robots win anytime. That's just how it goes.
All right, you heard it here, folks. Robots win. Period. Yeah. End of story.
Would always win. They're metal. They can download their brains in some other body. Snake Eyes, he's meat. He's meat in a black spandex and with a sword. He's done. It's over.
Yeah. Just no way. Well, let's talk a little bit about the quest, because the last time that I talked to you on the conversation that we had, it had just barely started coming out, so we couldn't spoil anything. But for anybody that missed it, the bequest is a extremely fun D&D fantasy story of basically we open a rift into a Tangia, which is a D&D style world that then some bad guys start bringing in the weapons from their world into our world in Chicago and vice versa, and tries to start their own trouble. So Tim, where did this story come from? It's just so fun. You got to work with Freddie E. Williams the second again, and it was just having you guys do this together, and just the epicness of the artwork plus the story and just all the silly fun. So tell us a little bit more about this title.
Yeah, the idea comes from actually not something that funny. It comes from QAnon, actually, because the sort of idea, I see these people who, they sort of get some kind of satisfaction from like thinking that they know something, or they think that they're in on this secret of which is obviously fake, and but they're playing a game. They're sort of living in they're preferring, the reality is hard, and so they're living in this fake reality. And so that's also Dungeons and Dragons, right? I mean, when you're playing Dungeons and Dragons, you're trading, your normal life so you can go somewhere else and escape. And the idea, I guess, initially was, what if you brought your D&D characters, and several of the characters in that book are ones that I played as a kid. I haven't played D&D in a long time, but when I was a kid, I did. And the idea basically was like, what would these people think of a world which people would like to escape, just go somewhere else? Because I think fantasy characters and this idea of medieval stuff, they had no concept of any of these sort of things, and they would just find our modern world so just insane, like that people that don't want to, they have they get the chance to sort of escape themselves. I mean, you certainly didn't in medieval times, and you just had to survive, and the idea of what they would think. So I mean, obviously it got funnier as we went along and became, big and fun and crazy, but still it's really just sort of about that urge to just become someone else and escape a very complex modern world that's sometimes too much for people to deal with.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do love basically the themes of both this and then Dark Red, which we'll talk about next, which is basically just anti-Nazi, like just hating on this whole like very right-wing like Nazi regime, and I'm all about it.
I mean, they're both about. I guess to me, Dark Red is about this. My grandfather's generation. You know, whatever conservative and liberal meant then, it doesn't mean what it means now. And this idea, you know, if someone like my grandpa, if he saw what conservatives were, he would just be. I mean, he did see it before he died, and he was horrified. And you know, he like what was the sort of America's greatest person when my grandpa was, you know, in his 20s or 30s, versus what we create now is just it's just so much different. And so the idea was just like, what if you took, you know, this angry, sullen, rural person who kind of hates the country, but the reason they hate it is not, it doesn't push him to become a Nazi, because he used to fight those things. He used to think that was the worst thing you could be. It doesn't think it's you know, something to vote for. So yeah, it's very obviously very political, but it's also a vampire story, and just trying to mess around with the sort of tropes. Obviously, vampire stories are almost always urban. You know, it's become this sort of you know, cults and clans, and obviously from Vampire the Masquerade was a big influence on that. And so I just wanted to do something which was, you know, this guy chooses to live in a place that's harder to live in because that's where his heart is. And I grew up in a rural place, so you know, I don't live there anymore, but I understand that kind of viewpoint.
Yeah, and this, I am as anybody that follows me knows, I'm a little bit obsessed with the vampire lore just in general. So if there's anything vampire related, I'll probably read or watch it, unfortunately, for some of the terrible stuff that's come out recently. But I absolutely love this, very contemporary. And like you said, it kind of goes down to the bones of America and to this small town, and this very different version of a vampire than we've ever seen. Because like you said, it's usually very like sexy and in the cities, very underworld-esque. But this is just a dude who he got a job at a gas station because he can work the night shift, and he found a friend who's a bartender who suffers from, I can't remember the name of the disease, but it's basically when your body makes too much, yes, makes too much blood.
Yeah, it makes too much blood.
Yeah. And so instead of, you know, paying the expensive fees to basically just get her blood drawn every once in a while, she just feeds her friend Chip, and it's great. And then Nazis come into town, they think what he does is so great. And like my favorite line is actually at the end of the first issue, when like Chip kind of puts together who they actually are and what they're doing, and he gets so mad. He's like, "Are you telling me you're Nazis?" And I was like, all right, I'm in, let's do this. So let's dive into this, because now we have their new one-shot prestige format that just came out yesterday, which is a beautiful 48 pages of Dark Red, Where the Roads Lead. So this is an incredible story that focuses more on Chip and his past, and basically finding an old war buddy on his deathbed, and then trying to save him from his mom made a deal to sell his soul, and now he's to the devil, and now he's trying to save his soul in hell. I loved this story so much. It was so great to go and see kind of Chip, because we did get the history of how Chip became a vampire, but just the effect that it had on one of his dearest friends in the war. And I love to hear like where this story came from for you, and like all the meaning behind it.
Yeah, well, so the character Chip, like I said, is sort of inspired by my grandfather. My grandfather is a World War II vet. He died 2 years ago at 94. So he lived a really interesting life. He was an amazing guy. But he, towards the end of his life, you know, he always wanted to stay at home. He didn't want to go to to a retirement home or anything like that, or a hospital. And he fought it so hard. And finally, you know, he could not take care of himself, and so he was staying at a veterans home. So we would go see him in the veterans home, and it's just, I mean, this was a you know, obviously a service of which we provide for veterans, because they gave themselves to defend the country, and then to just kind of see, I don't know, you know, it's just kind of they're kind of forgotten to some degree, and it really bothered me. And so so this story is sort of obviously based on that, and based, I guess, a lot on I mean, one of the things that really sort of really bothered me when my grandfather passed was, it was Christmas Day when we went to visit him. He kind of went into like this this state that they never tell you about when people die, which is this sort of like in between life and death. And he was kind of conscious, but not really. And what the doctors will do is kind of, because it hurts, they keep people kind of on a steady drip of morphine, and essentially they're kind of in this weird limbo. And we had to go because I had a 3-month-old daughter, and we couldn't stay there all the time. I just couldn't stay. I wanted to stay with him the whole time, and so I left because I had to go home. And the place was about 6 hours from my house, and about 4 hours from my parents' house, or hour and a half, I mean, about from my parents' house. So I couldn't stay, and I had this sort of nightmare that he would become clear for just a moment and realize no one was there, and that's when he would pass, and it really bothered me. So I sort of based this story, that little bit of the horror is that you weren't there when someone died, right? That they died alone, and so that was kind of the inspiration for this story. And that's probably way too dark and way too much information, but a lot of this story is just based on that. And Chip, he's a vampire, and he has to do all these things to survive, and he wasn't there for his friend, and kind of the regret and him trying to make that right. And so even though he's not a selfless, heroic person, the book has traditionally been about that he's not a hero, but he keeps being pushed into doing hero things, and he accepts when it happened. And that was what happened in both arcs that we did before this, and that's what I want to do here again. And so Chip goes to basically goes to the underworld with this nun who's a voodoo practicing nun, and goes with her to get his soul back from the adversary, which is how the devil is portrayed actually in the Bible. And so, yeah, it's a little bit of and we get to bring back Camille, which everybody loved in the first one because she's naked. And so, yeah.
Yes, shocker. Everybody loved the very, very hot blonde who was just naked all the time. I know, it's
yeah,
shocking.
Right. Shocking.
But I have to say, Rita, because I had a couple of very good cries with this book. So everybody must get it. We will have a version of it for the live sale as well. But you can definitely feel that you had such experience with these, veterans homes, just from the opening scene, and the way you described it was just really, like, you felt it down to your soul. So excellent job. It's an absolutely beautiful book.
Thanks. Yeah, I think Corinne, kind of came into this one really polished up from the last one. So I think it's some of the best art she's done. And so, yeah, really beautiful. Mark Engler's colors on it, really nice. And I wasn't sure about this format, which is sort of like a one-shot album kind of idea, but there's something kind of cool about it because you can, it's just really contained. Like, this is, a sort of survey. Obviously there's more stories for this character, but I feel like you can come into this and, we don't hold your hand all the way, but at least we kind of tell you what this deal is, and you know who he is, and it gives you kind of a survey of his life, and kind of who he is. This kind of a good guy who's just trying to survive.
Yeah, it definitely feels like a movie in between seasons. Like we had season 1, season 2, and now we had a fun movie, and maybe there's a season 3. We don't know. We won't spoil that. So yeah. Let me just get to these chats because we have some great questions. Let me go back to, because this is actually something I was very curious about. Oh no, it won't let me scroll all the way back up to one of our great questions from one of our viewers, where the lore that you have in all of Dark Red. I would love to hear your inspirations. One of our viewers asked if it had any inspirations from the later work from Anne Rice, or like what vampire lore did you pull for this incredible story?
Not Anne Rice. I'm not familiar. I know who she is. I've never read any of her work, or I don't think I've seen the movies either. But definitely it kind of pulls a lot from and they make a joke about it, I think, but the sort of the stuff that Vampire the Masquerade set up, where there's like these sort of tribes of different kind of, we pulled a little bit from that, and this was kind of reaction against, because those are so sort of city based, and obviously it's a little bit of reaction again to something like Twilight to some degree as well. But yeah, I mean, I think it kind of, the biggest thing it pulls from, I think, probably for my own inspiration, is the 80s film Fright Night. The character in that movie is named Charlie, and so Chip is named Charles Ipswich. That was a big inspiration for this. It was the first vampire movie I ever saw. I saw it when I was, I think, 9 or 10. It was the first one I saw like the full thing through. Not a Universal horror movie, Dracula or something. But that was the biggest inspiration. Actually, was Fright Night. If I'm being honest.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good to know. And I'm gonna have to rewatch Fright Night just because, And then one question from earlier too, which I'm curious of, because everybody really wants in the chat was talking about how much they'd love to see Dark Red as a movie. Who would you cast as Chip for if this was made into a movie or a TV show?
Oh man, that's a good question. So Corinne and I have always had a difference of how Chip is shown. Every time she draws him, he gets hotter. Like he
did get very hot in this last. I'm gonna say the one shot. I was like, he's very good looking now. What happened?
Yeah, and he, in my mind, is not hot. He's not like, he doesn't have buff arms. He's a little guy. My grandpa was a little guy, and so I don't know. I'm not very good at like keeping a lot of actors in my head, but I did when I was watching Peacemaker. The guy who plays Vigilante, who's just kind of this weird guy, and he's funny and he's sort of scrawny, but he like has these sort of bursts of occasional horrible violence. I was like, oh, that guy would be perfect. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he's let's see, who's a Vigilante actor.
Yeah, Google it right now.
Freddie Stroma, that's who I would probably put, I guess, at the moment. Just kind of a smaller, because he's not a huge guy, and he's not, I mean, he's good looking, but he's not like chiseled and stuff. That'd probably be. But yeah, I think partially because Corinne is, she's drawing, and this happens to everybody who draws. You kind of fall in love with your character. You fall in love with it, and so you keep drawing them, and they kind of become more and more what you would look for. And then, so he's a little more buff when Corinne draws him than I would draw him.
Yeah, so definitely. So Nathan, not Zac Efron. We had one commenter be like, Zac Efron, like, no. I mean, unless we're going super scrappy with him.
Yeah, too handsome for sure.
Oh, Tim, I wish we could talk to you for so much longer. It's so great to talk to you. Everything that we've talked about is available at your local comic book shop. So there is the trade paperback for Brilliant Trash, the trade paperback of The Bequest, and then the 2 trade paperbacks, as well as the One Shock, and now also a hardcover edition of both of the volumes, the first 2 volumes of Dark Red, available in the year 1. So all this you can get at your local comic shop. Tim, where can everybody follow you on the social media to find out more about what's coming up next from you?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter at Hackin Tim Seeley, and I'm on Instagram as at Tim Seeley. I'm not on Facebook because I think it's terrible. So find me on those 2 places, and I always post new art and all kinds of other various things.
Fantastic. Oh, we have Mike Ruth in the chat right now, who actually did a brilliant variant for us for this happy hour. And he says, good to see you again, Tim. That convention in Halifax we were at seems like forever ago. It was a pleasure to do a cover for this book.
Yeah, it's great cover. I just saw it before I logged in, so it looks great. Nice job on that.
Perfect. Well, everyone, we're going to be right back with the live sale. Speaking of the variant cover exclusive for Happy Hour. But thank you again, Tim, for joining. We'll talk to you real soon, and we'll be right back with the AfterShock live sale.
All right. Thanks so much.
Thank you everyone so much for joining this happy hour with the incredible Tim Seeley. And now you got to put in your calendar, because we'll be back in 2 weeks with another happy hour on Thursday, February 17th with the amazing Adam Glass and the co-writer for Lollipop Kids and his son, Aiden Glass. So we'll see you right back here, same bat time, same bat channel on Thursday, February 17th. See you then.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the live sale portion of this happy hour. So for those of you that are new, what I'm going to do is I'm going to run through each of the items that we're going to have available for the live sale, and then we will open up the sale so you can start ordering right away and get all these incredible books in your cart right at the same time. So first up, as we were just discussing, we have the Dark Red one-shot happy hour variant by the incredible Mike Ruth. Sir, this is a beautiful, beautiful cover. These are only $15 each. We have only 200 available. So that is our first item available for this live sale. We have the Dark Red hardcover collection, year one, that I was just discussing. Usually it's $40, but for this live sale, we're going to do it for only $30 each. There's only 20 available. So it's been selling out pretty fast at all the conventions. And we also have the Dark Red hardcover collection that is signed with a sketch from Tim that he did at C2E2. There are only 3 available of that, and we're selling it for $60. That's 60. But again, only 3 of those available, so make sure you're ready. And then we have the Dark Red #1 C2E2 exclusive 9.8 CBCS graded book. So there's only 1 of these available for $100 total. We have the Dark Red #1 sketch cover signed with a sketch from Tim Seeley. This is the first printing. There's only 1 of these available. And I do want to note that the Joe Pruett himself is actually selling this from his own personal collection. So there's only 1 of these available, and that will be $60 for this book. Oh, I'm sorry, no, $50, 50 for this, and there's only 1 available. And last but not least, available for today's live sale, we have a complete set of Brilliant Trash comic series, issues 1 through 5, with an additional cover, which is the #1 incentive cover included. So it's going to be 6 books total, 6 of these issues total for only $15. And there's only 20 of this together. So that is everything that we're going to have. And I'll talk through it more in detail now that we're going to open up the sales. So now let's open it up and we'll get going. Seeing that Creed did comment on love the artwork, Mike Ruth, on this beautiful Dark Red one-shot happy hour variant. I absolutely love it. We're going to have Mike Ruth as a guest soon again, and I love to ask him about his whole idea behind this, because I absolutely love having the reflection of the monster that Chip actually is in the bucket. So good, so good. So again, the happy hour one-shot variant that Mike Ruth did is only $15, but only for the next 24 hours, and there's 200 of them available. So you gotta grab them while you can. We also have the Dark. Oh yes, it is now live. I got reminded by my amazing video producer that we are live with the sale, so you can start jumping on these right away. Yes, Dale, he says he can't play the volume at work, but we can claim it here. Yes, go for it, Dale. I know you can't hear the sound, but do it. Because we also have I absolutely love this. I might have gotten one of the Dark Red hardcover collections that was signed with a sketch by Tim Seeley, because yeah, I really wanted it, and I got it at C2E2. So we have the ones that aren't signed and sketched by Tim Seeley. We have 20 of those available for $30 instead of the usual $40 cover price. And we only have 3 available of the signed with a sketch by Tim Seeley for $60 each, but it's so good. So this encapsulates both volumes of Dark Red. So we're calling it Dark Red Year 1. We also have 1 available of a 9.8 CBCS graded Dark Red #1 C2E2 exclusive for $100. And we also have the one and only Dark Red #1 sketch cover that Joe Pruett has donated from his own collection for $50. It's absolutely so much fun. You can see it here. Gotta get it. Oh, Paul Dunn said he got it. Yes, good job. And then last but not least, I cannot suggest this series enough. I absolutely love Brilliant Trash, the artwork, the storyline. It's, as Tim said, it's a very different story from him since it's more sci-fi related than horror. There's definitely some horror elements. Don't get me wrong. There's still a lot of that going on. And right here, right now, you can get a complete set of Brilliant Trash comic series 1 through 5, plus an additional #1 incentive cover included for only $15. There's only 20 of these available, so make sure. Awesome. Purple Mystic just said, got that sketch cover. Well done. The much coveted. Sorry. Oh, well done. So it looks like both the CBCS cover and the sketch cover have been grabbed. So good job, team. Well, way to go. Really excited for all of you to read this, because if you haven't picked up the Dark Red One Shock of Where Roads Lead, it's so good. Like as Tim said, and you could really feel the personal touch to this. And it's, now that I hear the whole backstory, I'm gonna have to read it again and cry all over again. It's fine. It'll be great. It's so good. Love me some vampire stories. I cannot wait. Hopefully Dark Red will be coming back with more. All the fingers crossed. But guys, thank you as always for joining us for the happy hour and live sale. We will be back in just 2 more weeks with the incredible Adam Glass and his co-writer of Lollipop Kids and his son, Aiden Glass. So I might not be drinking on that show, since we'll have a underage person on here, but so excited for that in just a couple of weeks. And stay safe out there for all of you in the Midwest like me. Stay safe in this crazy storm. Make sure that you keep your distance from people, wear your masks, wash your hands, and only read dangerously. We'll see you for the EpiCenter on Tuesday, and in 2 weeks, we'll see you for the happy hour. Make sure to like and subscribe wherever you are watching this, and we'll see you very soon. Bye now.
Thank you everyone so much for joining this happy hour with the incredible Tim Seeley. And now you got to put in your calendar, because we'll be back in 2 weeks with another happy hour on Thursday, February 17th with the amazing Adam Glass and the co-writer for Lollipop Kids and his son, Aiden Glass. So we'll see you right back here, same bat time, same bat channel on Thursday, February 17th. See you then.